My name is Nathaniel Sperger. I'm with the Women's Business Center of North Carolina. I am the content coordinator, and I work with business counseling and creating content for our learning platform, for our website, and for classes like these. Um, if you have not had a one-on-one counseling session with us for starting a business specifically, I highly recommend it. This class will take you through the basics of starting a business in North Carolina, but there's always little things that it's good to, to have a one-on-one conversation on regarding your business specifically. If you guys want to put in the chat whether you have a business or you are brand new, that way I can kind of tailor what we talk about to you all. All right, I see Hannah has brand new. I suspect most people will be brand new since this is Start Your Small Business. And I'm going to go ahead and present as you guys chat in there. Remember, you can come off mute if you want to ask a question. Ask a question on the chat, whatever you feel comfortable with. You can be on camera or off camera as well. All right, everyone should be able to see my screen. And we will go ahead and start. So as I said, basically we're going to overview, the basics of what you need to know, what you need to think about before starting a business in North Carolina. So we'll talk about some of the preparation, some of the personal stuff you need to be ready for, stuff maybe you haven't thought about on planning and organizing. Get networking. That's a big one. Success in business is basically down to preparation and to how well you're connected. So if you don't feel like you're well connected, it's time to get well connected. Other stuff we'll talk about is the more foundational paperwork stuff, like registering your company, getting your taxes in order. How are you going to pay taxes? What are the best ways to pay taxes or to collect to keep your income organized, and other government resources that you may want to take into consideration. So we'll kind of separate into those two parts. It is very important to ask yourself a few questions. If you've ever searched for how do I start a small business or gotten a PDF about starting a small business, you'll see that they run a whole line of things, asking questions about you, asking questions about what your motivation is for being in business, how well prepared you are, how you feel about perhaps having a hard run for a couple years while you start. These are all things you need to take into consideration and really, put them down on paper. That's what the business plan is all about. Business plan helps you to think about what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and whether you are prepared now to do what you want to do, or maybe you need to start smaller. So you need to know a question to think about: how good are you at making tough decisions? Are you organized? Are you good at planning? Can you afford to be without some money or to decrease your spending for a time while you grow your business? Generally, it takes about 2 years for a business to actually start to run on itself or to produce enough income that it actually feels like you're not just bleeding money. So keep that in mind. It isn't always the case. Sometimes you're lucky. Sometimes you just prepared very well, like we said in the beginning. But these are things to take into consideration. Also want to think about, is the idea that you have something that's worth investing in right now? Imagine somebody coming to you with that idea and selling it to you. Would you want to buy that? Would you participate in that? And if you take that to a friend, are they eagerly interested in it, or are they just kind of like, well, I don't know, you're my friend, so I'll test it. But testing out your idea and developing what they call an elevator pitch. Think about your business in one paragraph. Can you describe what you want to do in one paragraph? If you can't, that's something to start working on. But I don't like reading the slide, so I won't read the slide. I generally don't read it. It's there for you guys, and I can share all this information that's on here with you afterwards as well. But if you have questions, if you want me to talk about something that you feel that I didn't cover, let me know, please. So experience, willingness, and the idea, right? Think about those things. Make sure they're clear. Make sure you have clarity on what you're trying to do. So as we continue talking about planning and organizing, a lot of research is involved as well. There are a myriad of ways to investigate whether your idea is going to work or not. And at the same time, a lot of ideas, if they're brand new, you may just have to test them out, right? And that's part of just being ready to have that time of growing the business. All businesses go through a phase of no income, sometimes negative income, until they start to produce, something that feels like a positive flow of income. But you want to research what it is you're trying to do and how you're going to convince people that what you're trying to do or what you're trying to sell is worth buying. So, sales is like a big one. If you don't like to sell, you need to start thinking about liking selling or getting somebody on your side who likes to sell. There's a good quote that says, work like there is someone working 24 hours a day to take it away from you, to take that business idea away from you. There's somebody out there with the same idea. And if they're working harder, they may be the ones that succeed. So you want to be 100% committed to this idea that you have, or this product, or this business. The more commitment you have to it, the more possibility of success, of course. Another quote here, I've got it on the slide. I'll just read it because I love it so much. It says, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And that's a good one that we talk about with business plan. The business plan, and we'll cover it soon, is all about preparing. And it's all about writing down your idea and making sure it's clear in your mind and on paper. Something that you can share with somebody else, with a bank or with an investor or with a client. And when they read it, they're like, wow, yeah, I see what this business is and I see how it's going to work, and I love it. So we have an entire class on writing a business plan. And so I will not dwell on business plan, even though it is a very, very crucial part of starting a business. So if you feel like you need more help with business plan, definitely either schedule a one-on-one with us or come to the next class. I believe it's actually next week, same day, same time, and it's worth attending just to know the kind of stuff that you want to incorporate into a business plan, so that a bank looks at you seriously, and so that your idea is broadcast clearly and it makes sense to somebody that generally deals with business plans. A business plan will give your idea focus because you'll have to think about it. You'll have to really target who it is you're selling to. Who are you trying to reach? What is the point of your business? What is your vision and what is your mission? Those are like the guiding principles that take you where you're trying to go. You have to know where you're trying to go to be able to run that path towards that goal. It creates a track record that you could come back to, and it shows the different stages of your growth. You can come back and say, well, I forecasted this, but this is what happened. And maybe it was positive, maybe it was negative. Depending on what it was, now I'll change up what I'm doing to fix, or to, you know, to make, to augment what I already have done well. So you come back to your business plan and you say, great, I'm doing really good. Or let me change some stuff. Let me change a few items. Let me change the way I'm doing things so that I can mitigate what I'm seeing in my business plan that was not working well. Um, you may have heard a business plan is used I've already mentioned this, for getting loans. So if you have a good business plan, you have a good chance of getting a loan. If you're starting a business from scratch, it's very difficult to get a loan. So there's there's kind of a catch right there. You have to have a good business plan to get investment, but that is not the only thing you want to think about when you're looking for money to start your business. Because right in the beginning, you kind of have to depend on yourself, your friends and family, who who is on your side, and who can you incorporate into your business to bring in more cash if if that's what's necessary to start the business. So for that, we want to make sure that we're thinking about the business from the very beginning with a budget. So for example, if I want to start a small business selling, I don't know, let's make it really simple. We're going to sell some cookies, and we're going to bake them at home, something you can do. You don't have to have a license for it. You do have to have an inspection, but you're good. Make those cookies and go put a stand outside. And is that all you need to think about? Or do you need to say, well, this is how much I need to spend on flour, on sugar, on butter, on milk. This is how much I'm going to spend to make so many cookies. How much do I need to charge for those cookies? If you haven't thought about all the different stuff that you're going to spend to make those cookies, did you think about how much time it's going to take you personally to make them? Did you think about how much time it takes you to market those? Did you think about the expense of perhaps driving around or the gasoline you'll spend? If you don't factor in all the possible expenses, eventually you realize you're not making any money. And that's a very bad place to be right in the beginning. Now, when you make your budget, you may be thinking about your expenses, and your profit will start to cover the expenses further down the line. That is always an option, and that's always something that happens regardless. Like we said, the first 2 years, even 3 years, you may be either running even or you may be at a loss and waiting to cover those initial expenses with your profits that are slowly growing. So think about those different stages of your business, but make sure that that budget that you're creating is covering all those initial expenses sooner than later. You don't want to wait till later. You want to have a forecast of 5 years before you make profit. I was looking at a business plan the other day, and they had great ideas and great forecasts, but their initial investment was almost twice what they were making by the 5 year mark. So they were not really making any money yet. They may be able to cover their own, living expenses at that point because that was factored into the budget. But if you're not actually in the positive by about 5 years, you may have to reorganize your business, think about what you need to do and how you need to cut costs to bring that back into the black. So that budget in the beginning is very important. If you want to start a restaurant, let's say, there's a huge amount, or even a coffee shop, anything related to food, there's a big expense right at the beginning. Sometimes if you have to have a brick and mortar for almost any business, there's going to be a large expense right at the beginning that is going to be hard to cover for a number of years or months, depending on how you're doing. But that initial investment needs to be factored into that budget, and maybe because of your own money or your capital that you have ready for starting a business, you may want to tailor your business down, you know, snip a little bit, cut some fat off of it, and make it a little more lean right in the beginning as you start to catch on and start to create a name for yourself. Your brand starts to grow and your marketing is doing better. You've created a larger network. So think about that right in the beginning. I have an idea. How much do I need to spend to make that idea happen? And what am I going to make off that idea, off of the research that I'm doing? Does that make sense to everybody? If you don't, if you don't have a, I mean, most people don't like making budgets. So, but if you need help with a budget, that's something also that we can give you assistance with. That's also something that you may want to talk to a CPA about. It's never a bad idea to talk to an accountant right in the beginning of your business, even before you've registered, just to talk about expenses and how you're going to manage that income flow. So I love this slide. I think it's a good slide. I think it says what it needs to say, and it looks nice as well. But going back to what we've been saying, the key to success in business is networking. Because with a proper network, you have help, you have possible investment, you have closer connections to potential clients or potential suppliers. There's a lot of organizations out there. One of them is us. We can help you. We can review things with you. We can encourage you, and we can guide you towards the right places. Another great one to be involved in, especially once you feel like you could do it right away, but it's something to think about in the budget as well. Some of these have a cost, so you want to factor those in. Networking has a cost in time, and a cost in potential membership fees, but it's worth doing. But factor it into your budget. Think about the chambers of commerce. There are local chambers of commerce. There's North Carolina chambers of commerce. There are city chambers of commerce. There are chambers of commerce that focus on specific industries. Get close to the people that are near you. If in a local scenario, use that chamber of commerce as a way to start to create these networking opportunities. That's what they exist for, basically. They exist to create a networking base for small businesses, for large businesses. They exist to connect people with people that are doing similar stuff. Same thing with social media or with associations that are, relevant to what you are trying to do. If you're in a professional services type of business, you'll want to get into those associations, or they're almost like clubs. And that's what they're about. They're about connecting, they're about talking, they're about having drinks together, they're about spending time and creating relationships that eventually will be, possibly the reason your business succeeded. So don't take networking lightly. Social media is wonderful as well today. And it feels like all you have to do is get an account and now you're on social media. But the reality is social media can be an entire job for a person in a business. So think about that in your budget as well. If your business is going to rely heavily on an online presence, you're going to want to have a strong online presence, not just with your website, but also on social media. Whatever platform is most relevant to the group you're reaching out to. If it's really young people, you'll want to get on those new platforms like TikTok. If it's an older population, you may want to stay with LinkedIn or with Facebook. Instagram is good as well if you're kind of a visual selling. If you're selling by what people see invites them to buy, you know. But regardless, having a presence and being very active in that presence is key, because growing in social media is all about how much you put into it. And interestingly, it comes back to business as well. Social media, the if you will, the allegory that you can pull out of social media for starting a business is very similar. The more you interact with people on social media, same way with your business, the more you interact with customers and with potential suppliers in this networking, the more you will grow. If you put a lot into it, you will get a lot out of it. If you respond to your customers, if you're accessible through social media, you don't want to just have your stuff out there and use it as a place to put advertising and say, hey, I'm selling this, hey, I'm doing this, hey, we're doing this, hey, do this, come here, go there. You want to provide value through social media. And sometimes maybe I harp a little bit on social media, but I feel like it is a great way to provide an initial trial version or a freebie to people before they buy. So you may go on a YouTube channel, you're trying to find, some information on how to do something, and you found somebody, just a quick video that they put together to show you how to do, how to fix your washing machine, and you thought it was great, and they had a tool on there, and they happen to sell that tool, and you like this person, you like what they're talking about, you buy the tool. This has happened to me, not with the washing machine, but it once you kind of have, it's not the same as a person, a face-to-face relationship, but when you are given something, you are more likely to buy or to participate in whatever that person is doing. So providing that value right off the bat on social media is going to take you far. It's the best way to grow your audience. So funding is also another class. We separate funding and business plan because they are extensive. And this slide tells you some interesting things. I get a lot of questions about getting money. How do I get money to start my business? And it is an excellent question, but it is a hard one to answer, mainly because it, sorry, I was just checking. Mainly because it's very hard. It's very hard to get funding as a startup. Okay, 75% of businesses start with $5,000. So think about that. I mean, that's a very small amount of money. Now it's not nothing, and sometimes we don't even have that to start a business. But up to $5,000, we can start a business, and sometimes we can start a business with even less than that. Sometimes with nothing, if we already have something happening, if we already have stuff that we have available to start our business, and we're starting really small. But the amount of money, it's going to be, I mean, you can go from 5,000 to start a business to 100,000 to start a business. If you're in the restaurant industry, you may go to $500,000 just to start a business. And to get that amount of money as a startup from a bank is going to be very difficult. So for that, I will leave that to the funding class. But if you have questions about funding, definitely come to us or reach out to the different CDFIs and credit unions. They all have information on how to get funding as a startup or as a continued business. But it is part of your budget. You need to find out how are you going to get money. Think about your friends, think about your family. I know it sounds like it's not the easiest one, but it comes back to those questions you need to ask yourself in the beginning. Are you willing to do the hard work? Are you interested in your idea that much that you are willing to put, that maybe those hard sells or those conversations to get this business going? The most investment in the beginning of a business is coming from people right around you, and maybe a small loan. Those loans are going to be personal loans, so they'll be dependent on your credit. So there's you want to think about that as well. Are you willing to take out a loan on your own credit to fund this new idea that you have? So I'm going to transfer over to the nitty gritty, if you will, the paperwork and the stuff that you need to do just to register your business and get your tax situation in order. And I want to give you a chance to ask questions regarding what we've already talked about. If you have any questions, put them in the chat or go ahead and unmute and ask the question. So, what are you going to do? What is your business going to be? Do you have a name already? Do you need to think about trademarking that name? Do you need to think about getting a copyright if you have a product? Are you trying to sell something that somebody else may want to copy? All those things are going to go into this first item, this giving your business a name. You want to make sure that that name is not used by somebody huge, that it doesn't include words that may, in a Google search, throw people over to some giant business that already exists. So you Google your name. Think about a name, Google it, see what kind of results you get. Check for whether there's a domain name, whether there's an internet name that you can purchase for that name, or whether it's already taken. You may have to change your name in that case, because generally, if you buy a name from somebody, it's going to be pretty expensive. But those are things to think about. Do you need to buy a domain for your website? Is the name that you've chosen going to work for you? Are there social media handles for that name? Also, is there another business with the same name? To do that, you can go to the Secretary of State's office on their website, sosnc.gov, and you can search the name for your business and see whether there is a name already associated with the business. But that's definitely an important part of your business plan and starting your business. Do you have the right name for your business? So once you have a name thought about, you want to start thinking about, going back to your business plan, going back to your budget, what kind of structure is going to work best for you. And I'm going to give you the main points on each structure, but depending on your business, depending on how much you're going to make, and depending on that initial investment that you have ready for your business, you may want to, go bigger. You can start as a sole proprietor, which is the smallest and the simplest kind of business. Basically, if you've decided to sell something and you are selling that thing, in fact, you are a sole proprietor now, and you are going to file taxes as a self-employed person, and you are a business. To make it legal or to make it official, all you have to do is to go to your local county and register that name with the Register of Deeds, and you will get a certificate that says Mr. John Smith does business as John Smith's Carpentry, and that's a business right there. An LLC, which is the next up, if you will, the next type of business, is a business that is created specifically to protect a sole proprietor from suits coming from clients or other people and from the government, with tax liability, basically. So it protects you as an individual by creating a separate entity, which is the LLC. And I like to think about it as a actual person. You have created a separate person that exists on its own, which is your business. It has a name, and it has a tax designation, it has a tax ID number, like your social security number, and it has its own bank account. So anything that that entity does, your business, is done by the business. It is not done by you. And that way there's separation. And that way anything that is brought against the business does not touch the owner of the business. And that is the reason why an LLC exists. There are other benefits with an LLC regarding taxes, but they are more complex, and it depends really on how much money you're making. So generally, you'll be taxed the same as a sole proprietor when you have an LLC. If you are making more than $50,000 a year, you will want to think about how you're being taxed and whether you need to file for a different tax status, which basically you'll be taxed now as a corporation. There's different types of corporation tax filing, and you'll want to investigate that once you're making more than a certain amount of money. So these are things that you'll think about in your business plan, depending on what your forecasts are, but you'll also want to talk to your accountant and make sure you're filing your taxes in the way that provides you the most income. So anyway, going to a corporation, that is a large business. Basically, you need to maybe making some considerable amount of money, or you need to have a complicated structure, maybe lots of people involved in the business, or a large initial investment, or be making enough money to be reinvesting in your business pretty heavily, to really, to have a corporation, to make it make sense to have a corporation. But as a first-time business owner, or when you're starting a small business, you want to stick to the sole proprietor or the LLC. And if you want protection from others outside, you want to stick with the LLC. But don't be afraid of the sole proprietor. It is the way that we do business in the United States, really, because you just have to go out and sell something and you are a business. Now, of course, you have to think about taxes and licensing and all that. But as long as you are selling something, you are a sole proprietor, and you need to pay taxes as a business. Think about separating also your income. Sometimes you can get a separate bank account tied to your own, a separate checking account tied to your own checking account. Um, and a few banks will give you a separate, actual separate account as a sole proprietor. But regardless of that, you want to make sure that the money that comes in as a sole proprietor is coming in through one direction and it's going out through the same direction so that you have order in the way you're managing your money. And there's a difference between personal money and your business money. So I think I've covered all I want to cover on sole proprietorship, but it is a great option if you have a small thing you want to sell, if you want to go and work at a flea market, or you want to be at a farmer's market, or you're just starting a small food business that doesn't involve any licensing, or you're selling something where you're not going to be making more than about $50,000 a year. You can stick with the sole proprietorship. We're going to focus more on the LLC in this presentation. Again, a corporation, sometimes an accountant or a friend will say you should open a corporation for this type of business. We like to say don't open a corporation because it is a way more complex process and it involves a lot more paperwork. It involves a lot more work on the back end by you and possibly by an accountant. You may want to you'll need an accountant. You may have a board of directors. So it's just a lot more complicated, and you only want to get into a corporation if you're willing to put that extra work and pay maybe some extra people and some professional services to manage this corporation. But you can always go to a corporation from an LLC. So the LLC is what small businesses revolve around. You can do almost any kind of business as an LLC. In fact, I'm not sure there is a business that you cannot do as an LLC. Again, it exists separate of the owner, which is called a member of the LLC. So you will be a member of your LLC, and it is taxed just like you would be taxed as a self-employed person. You'll pay your federal and state taxes, and then you'll pay your self-employment taxes like Social Security and Medicare separately on your own for each member of the LLC. But it is a container for your business basically, and it protects whatever your business is from outside involvement, from suits, and from the government. If you haven't paid your taxes, they can come after your LLC, but they can't come after you personally as long as you have maintained that separation between the entity and your person by having the bank account for the business, by using the tax ID for the business, and by doing all the things that relate to the business in the name of the business and not yourself as a person. So remember that. Think about yourself as a member of this LLC that you have created, even though you are the owner. So registering an LLC is easy. You just go on the SOSNC.gov, the Secretary of State's website for North Carolina, and you can just register your business right there. They even have a video that walks you through all the steps. It is very simple. All you need to have is an email address. You need to have an address, a physical address for information, mailings, and whatever the business is going to be sent by the government. You'll have to have an actual physical address for that. And you have to have a person that is going to receive that mail, and it is called the registered agent. If you start your own business and it's just you, you will probably be all those things. So it will be your email, your address, and your name as the registered agent. Everything else that is required is related to that. And if you have those three things, you can register a business right now with North Carolina. It costs $125, and then you're done. You will have to update the filing once a year, and I believe it costs the same amount of money. So that's something to think about in your budget, but that's it. It's super easy. With a few clicks of the mouse and a few typing, you'll be done. Once you have that registered, you will get in the mail about 2 weeks or so, sometimes earlier, you'll get a certificate of existence. Now there are some scams going around where there are companies that offer to sell you to do this paperwork to get a certificate of existence. I just got this from a client today, and you do not have to do that. You can pay for it with $15 from the Secretary of State, and you get one when you start your business. So don't fall for people trying to sell you all this paperwork. Most of it is done easily online by yourself. And if it isn't on a government website, you may want to think about what is happening right here. If you're on a .com, you may be paying somebody to do something that you can do. That being said, you can pay people to do all this paperwork for you. And it's not too expensive, but it's something you want to think about. If that is in your budget, do it. But if it isn't, that's what we're here for, to talk about it, to help guide you through the steps to actually do these things. The next thing you're going to want to do is apply for an EIN number. This is that tax number for your LLC, and it's going to give that LLC an ID in front of the IRS. It's also going to be useful when you get your business bank account. It is the social security number of the business. So this is another step in making that business an entity by itself. This one is even easier. It's on the IRS website, and you can apply for it and get it within minutes. So once you have your business registered, go ahead and apply for an EIN. Now with that EIN, with that registration, you can go get your business bank account. You want to shop around for the business bank account because every bank offers different things. Some offer a lot of tools that you can use for your accounting, and it's going to help you and possibly keep you from having to pay somebody to work your accounting. But as long as you use the bank account for the business and you pay with the bank account, you don't use cash a lot, you will be able to come back to that bank account, those statements, to in case of an investigation of your taxes. You always have all the documentation from the bank readily available. That's why a sole proprietor as well should either have a separate checking or try to get a business bank account so that they can protect themselves with good accounting. Once you have those three things, you have a business, and it's perfectly capable of doing business on its own unless you need a specific license or a permit to do the business that you're in. And that is something that you need to make sure that you are thinking about right in the beginning. How many licenses or permits do I need? Can I do this out of my house? Do I need to have a brick and mortar? Those are questions you want to ask before you go through this process, because you want to make sure you have enough money to get these things and start making money again off the business. Some licenses are very inexpensive. Some just take a lot of time. In the restaurant industry, for example, there is a lot of licensing and inspection that goes into kitchens and the way you cook things and who is cooking things and how you handle food. That can take a long time to get through. So you want to have that budgeted in there. Make sure you're thinking about it and researching it right from the beginning. But you're going to have licenses from your local county or city. You'll have state, and you'll have federal occasionally, depending on what you're doing. Again, it all depends on what you're trying to do. Some businesses, like service businesses or selling retail, they don't involve very much at all, except perhaps paying sales tax. But you want to keep that in consideration with what you're doing right at the beginning. So there's a little thing called the home occupation permit, and I put it in here because most people don't have it. And when you are working out of your home, selling something, even working off a laptop, and that is your business, if you have a home occupation permit, which basically is a certificate that says you work out of your house, and gives some form to what you do out of that house, you can write off many things, many expenses from working from home, like the square footage of the area you use, the electricity, the internet, the bathroom. There's different things that you can write off. And right in the beginning of the business, write offs are going to help you a lot. So make sure you check with the city or county where you live. The city of Durham and the city of Raleigh, for example, do require a home occupation permit, and it's very easy to find on their website. Insurance, again, depending on what you're doing, but generally speaking, there is an insurance for your business, and it is a good idea to have it because you never know what's going to come down the line. If you were in business before COVID and COVID hit, some kinds of insurance may have helped a lot with that initial disaster, basically. And losing something that was unexpected, or having somebody sue you, or a product failure, if you have insurance, you have protection. If you don't have insurance, you don't have protection, and you need to rely on yourself. So depending on what you're selling, think about what kind of insurance you may need. Talk to an insurance agent, and they will guide you through the process. Generally, it's pretty inexpensive to get business insurance, like general liability or product liability, but it's well worth the expense. Again, something to put in your budget. Workers' compensation insurance is required after having 3 employees or more. And if you have, I think it's in the 45 employees, you'll have to think about benefits like medical insurance. But those are things to think about, whether you need to have right at the beginning or whether it's something you can postpone a little while as you grow. Again, that workers' compensation, all you need to have is 3 employees to need to have insurance. So some key points to maintain your LLC. One is, like I said, make sure you file each year that renewal. And also there's something that if you're on the Secretary of State website, you'll see something called the annual report. And you'll want to file an annual report each year. That maintains your LLC in good standing. It tells them that it still exists and it's doing business. It doesn't have to be making a profit, and it may not even have to be actually doing anything. But if you don't file the annual report and the renewal, it will just cease to exist. So you want to keep that every year. It's like doing your taxes is actually the same season. You're going to want to do that annual report. The other thing you need to do is keep very close watch, like we've already talked about, with accounting and making sure that there is separation in money between your personal expenses and your business expenses, between the way you sign your personal check or a personal whatever, with the way you're signing something for your business. If you're signing for your business, you sign in the name of the business, not in the name of your own John Smith or whatever. So that generally, if you do those 3 things, your LLC will be fine and you will have all the protections of an LLC. If you do a lot of transactions in cash, you need to make sure you don't do transactions in cash, or make sure to keep those transactions, good records of those transactions, what they were for, and who they went to. And physical receipts are a good idea in that case. Make sure you have a good website, regardless of what you're selling. I mean, you can be doing something totally irrelevant to online selling, but you want to have a website because people will search for you to make sure you exist or to make sure you're really a business. Somebody shows up with some t-shirts. I've actually heard this story. They have a nice t-shirt with their business name on. They are a sole proprietor, but they don't have a website yet. The person goes and looks for the name and can't find it. So they're scared. They don't want to let them in their house to do what they came to do because they feel like, maybe some kind of scam or they're going to steal something. And they don't see a way to, they're not going to go to the Secretary of State website to search for this business, even an LLC. So if you have a website, it's a way to legitimize your business. And it's also a way for people to contact you or to come back to you if they want to do business with you again. If they did, you were a plumber, you did a job for them, you left, everything was done, there was payment, and it's over. But they were like, I really like this guy. I can't remember his name. It was called, his business name was this. And so I searched for it, and there it is. Now we can do business again. And a website can be as easy as having a Facebook page in the name of your business, or just putting your business on Google Maps. That is another way to have a presence online. Because anytime you Google something, if you're doing it on Google, Google Maps will show up as a place that exists near you, and this is the name, this is the information. You can have a phone number, you can guide them to a website. Two great options to have a presence online: Facebook and Google Maps. It's not hard to have a website. You can do it yourself. Paying somebody is a little bit expensive, so if you feel like you need to pay somebody, you might want to have that budgeted in, up to $3,000 for a good website. But for $50 a month, you could have a domain and have a website that you could create yourself if you want to spend the time. But it's well worth the time, and it's well worth investigating how to make that website more visible. Like what I have here, SEO, search engine optimization, that is a whole field of study. But if you do a few things, if you research it a little bit, link it to your social media, link the website to other people, it helps with that. Making it also a good website that isn't selling, things that has a bunch of ads, that's going to help. But do some good research on having a great website, because it's going to help you tons and tons. And I've returned back to that networking slide. And the reason is because we're talking about websites, we're talking about networking. Networking is key. You have to participate in the community that you're trying to reach when you're selling to them. Or if you're trying to offer a service, you want to be in the community of that service. If you have a wellness service, participate in that wellness community, maybe just on Facebook or on another social media platform or an association or the Chamber of Commerce. Anywhere where you find a place to network and to be visible physically as well as online, you're going to profit from that. I'm going to leave this up right here and let you guys ask questions if you have any questions, or if you want me to guide you towards other information. I see a couple questions here. Yes, I will send the recording, and I will send you a not just these slides. I'll send you the actual full information. It says, how can you handle expenses that you incur before declaring an LLC? So that is very interesting. Before, if you're a sole proprietor and you have expenses, those expenses will be under your sole proprietorship, your self-employed taxes. So that is totally separate. Once you have an LLC, that LLC is starting from zero. It's a brand new baby. So any expenses prior to that will not participate in the LLC. There will be a place to the initial expenses of starting a business can be written off. But specifically on that new LLC, I don't think you can. That is a tricky situation for a tax professional. But as I understand it, with that LLC, it's going to be whatever was started after the LLC was started. That's what you can declare. Previously to that, you can declare expenses, but it will be as yourself with your sole proprietorship. So it's self-employed basically. And you can declare basically the same expenses. I don't know if that answers your question. But you may be doing two taxes. You're doing LLC taxes, and you'll be doing your self-employed sole proprietorship taxes. You're saying handle expenses. I hope I... So right here, actually, I'll just slide this slide over, and you can see our contact information. I also put it in the chat. Let me put the information in the chat again, just so you can access it easier. And I'll send everybody an email with any information that we've talked about and with additional stuff that you may want to research or investigate. So you'll have all kinds of good stuff to think about and to investigate. Right here through the website, connecting with an advisor, right here, where is it? That Women's Business Center NC website, you'll have a little tab that says register for counseling, and you can register there and we can schedule you in. Also, and I don't want to not sell us enough, but there are so many other resources to starting businesses and to getting advice as well. You can investigate score.org. They are a nonprofit organization of executives that offer advice to small businesses. It's all free. Ours is also free. And there is also the North Carolina. I always forget how they call their website. But if you look for North Carolina starting a business, there'll be a few websites that will pop up. And if they're of the government, there are some resources and advice. You can actually talk to a person face to face to get advice on starting a business and also get a referral. We can refer you to an accountant or a tax professional or anything of that kind that can help you out. But with the information that I'm going to send you guys in an email, you'll be able to get a good head start on this whole process. The one-page business plan. So you want to have a giant business plan, depending on your business. So a full-fledged business plan, and you should do a simple business plan as well. Anyway, there's something called the executive summary. In any business plan, it should have that. That actually works kind of as a one-page business plan. If you can fit all those things that go into the executive summary in a one-page business plan or in a one page, is a good thing. Like a resume that for a person that has 15 pages is less likely to be read than a resume that has one page in the beginning. So as an initial selling tool, anything that you can make that is compact, clear, and concise, but offers enough information so that somebody knows what you're doing and what you're about is a good thing. There's other documents like a capability statement that says what you do, and if it fits in one page, that's excellent. Keeping stuff. Imagine yourself reading a 10-page document versus a one-page document. As long as you have the information that you need in there, it's going to be great for you. We talk about a little bit about something we call the lean canvas, and it isn't just a one-page business plan, but it is a one-page presentation of the very foundational items of your business plan. So if you Google lean canvas, you'll find some interesting stuff on those more simplified, and in fact, some of them are kind of a modern version of the business plan. The traditional business plan is about 4 or 5 pages, depending on your business. Again, it always depends on your business. How in depth do you need to go to convince somebody of what you're doing? Those are great questions. I know we have social media here for us, and right now we are having some social media issues, unfortunately. We had a hack of our Facebook page, and so we're working on trying to fix that or get a new one. So you're probably not going to see any activity on our social media right now, but definitely go to our website, get some counseling, register a meeting. They're all free. We can have as many meetings as you want for free, and to talk about your business specifically, to overview your business plan, if that's what you want to do, to look over any documents that you have set up for your business, and to guide you on that first registration of an LLC or just being a sole proprietor, and talk a little bit more specifically about your needs. So keep that in mind and stay connected with us. If there are no more questions, I will sign off and thank you all for being here with me and for being with us here at the Women's Business Center of North Carolina.